Everyone ready? I'd like to start off today by thanking everyone for being here to watch this debate today. Judge for being here for timing, everyone here just to watch the opposition and my partner, and our timers. First, I'm going to tackle some of the more technical aspects of the debate and move on to their on-case points and then bring up me and my partner's off-case points. First, what I'd like to talk about is their choice of house, being that of the Taliban. While we are going to accept that their side uses the house, the way they are trying to set this up is to force us to argue that the Taliban believes that they should not win. However, we are not going to do this. We believe that this is on unfair ground. So while they are allowed to argue why the Taliban thinks it's good, we are going to argue in general why this war is bad and why the lives lost should not be less than just plain winning the war. Again, so if they try to turn this around, we are going to be arguing just in general why these things are bad versus trying to present a side of the Taliban that simply may not exist. Now on to their first point of their humanitarian level. They're saying that we must protect the rights of their soldiers to die with honor to protect their country. And while this may be true for those particular soldiers who have signed up for this, the fact is that there are more civilians dying in this war than there are soldiers. The soldiers who are signing up for this because they want to die for their country, that is a different matter. What we must be looking at is all lives, including the civilians. According to statistics, about just over 5,000, around 5,000 soldiers have died so far in this war. However, if you look at the Afghanistani civilians that have died, nearly 5,000 died within the first 3 months of this war. There are thousands of people being killed directly and indirectly, people being caught in crossfire, villages being bombed, roads to hospitals being shut off so the sick and wounded cannot get through. Yes?
Yes, we fully agree. The insurgent NATO forces are killing vast amounts of civilians in Afghanistan.
Yes, so I'm not saying that they disputed this fact. I'm simply showing the magnitude of this effect, how much impact they have that the opposition does apparently agree, that the proposition does apparently agree to. I'm saying that these lives matter too, not just the lives of the soldiers who want to do this for their own, personal reasons, but the civilians who are not asking to be part of this. People who aren't doing this for honor, aren't doing this to get their own spot in heaven. They're being killed simply because they live there. These lives are greater in number and greater in impact than the soldiers. They did not choose this. Again, this giant magnitude of lives lost outweigh just the few doing it for their own personal, almost selfish reasons for their own benefit. Second, they said that the Taliban has done it before. They've stolen Afghanistan back. They want to take control from their opponents. This is more of a fact, saying that they've done it before, so we're going to really strike this off the flow. You can keep it in mind if you like. There's nothing to argue there. If it's a fact, and it's really not too pertinent to this debate. Third, onto their global level, they're saying that the people will see the Taliban as powerful and able to sustain themselves. While this is true that they'll have power, this isn't necessarily in a good light. In fact, many countries do see certain governments, such as the Taliban, a very bad thing. The reason the U.S. is in there in the first place is because the U.S. and the U.K., so not even just the U.S. did agree that something needed to be done about this. And pushing back against a war and, sustaining even really poor conditions could make them look worse in the eyes of other countries and cause more problems for them. Also, they're saying that they want to beat all the U.S. enemies that are taking away their rights to rule. It is simply not only the rights of the Taliban. The U.S. may be fighting for the rights of the civilians, and really this is a personal opinion on which right is better than the other rights, but the power of the government is not the only issues, is not the only rights we should be looking at. We should not be looking at just the rights of the few people in charge of the government, but the people in the war, so the civilians being killed throughout this war, and the people who may not want to live under the rule of the Taliban. Next, they're saying that we must jump at the lack of American support and keep them from losing bases. While again, this would be a strategic way to win the war, we must be looking at whether or not winning the war is a good or a bad thing. And moving on to their final point, that this is not a war for resources, this is a war to defend and keep our country safe. This war is what is putting their country in danger. This war is what is killing all their civilians, destroying their buildings, cutting off access to hospitals, and putting fear into all these people. The war is what is harming this country. The war is what is not keeping this country safe. the sooner this war ends. Even people on the American side agree that the sooner this war ends, the safer they are. And not only the safer the Afghanistani people are, but safer the U.S. people are. The longer this war goes on, the more hostility there's going to be, the more outbursts, the more fights, the more acts of terrorism, the more acts of war. This will lead to longer and longer stretches of hostility between the two nations, will lead to more deaths, more devastation, everything that they say that they want to avoid. Moving on to our off-case points, first being that these terrorist attacks and conflicts, again, that are causing all this, are caused by strifes between the two countries. However, the sooner that these countries can try and settle their differences or not drag this out just for the purpose of winning or for the purpose of pride, the sooner that these countries can come to an understanding, the sooner the wars stop, the sooner the hostility stops, the sooner lives stop being taken away. Again, continuing the war is not going to solve anything, especially if they're saying we must continue this war to get rid of America. The longer they fight back, the longer Afghanistan fights back and the government stays in power, the longer the U.S. is going to want to be there, and possibly will not give up for years and years. And even once the war ends, there's going to be more hostility and more lives lost. Also, again, the value of human lives. Again, this is probably the biggest one, the value of the human lives being lost, not just the Afghanistan soldiers who want a place in heaven, but the U.S. soldiers and the Afghanistani civilians, versus almost wanting to win and wanting a government wanting themselves to be in power. Again, it is obvious that all of these lives affected is a higher value than this one form of government that, of course, wants themselves in power, just like every other government wants themselves in power. For these reasons, we believe it is obvious that the lives lost in the Afghanistan war is a greater value than just winning.